Right, let's go through the charts of May 27th. Plan to do this couple of days. Some of the moves are already quite extended, but nevertheless, let's go through the screens and see whether any playable setups. Yeah, this one has been trying to set up for a while now. Not really following the rest of the communication names. For example, this one completely different behavior lately, but it might be worth a shot once it breaks the 185, 186 levels. Then it could definitely run. Looks good on the weekly as well. So definitely one for the watch list. This one had a good recovery after the market broke to the downside, but nowhere near the stellar performance of some of the AI-related names. Right, this one we'll remove. ASMR, very good move. I have a position on this one. Bought it in the on the weakness day here, so has been a pretty good ride. This was one of these performances I was mentioning. Aeva, basically 65% from the lows with insane strength and volume. But you can't grab all the setups, right? Especially last Wednesday when the market was testing a second low, there was plenty to do. So not being able to grasp all of these moves is completely normal. As long as you're able to get 2 to 3 to 4 names in your portfolio at weakness times like this, that's perfectly sufficient for an insane performance. This one can go to the trading journal and then want to analyze down the line. AFRM keeps on doing a good basis. Same on the weekly. If it breaks these levels, maybe it would have room to run. Let's see. Definitely on the watch list. Did not show any weakness, nor did it show any strength. But let's see. That's another one I have a position in. Behaves pretty well so far. Let's see where it could get us. This is one of these setups that you, looking back, it may be easy to catch, right? But this one is almost unplayable. Maybe you could make an argument that it broke a base here and then it gave some time for entry. Here on this setting of a uptrending channel. But anywhere later, completely unplayable. And it's those setups that are unplayable that make the huge gains, right? Because everybody's left out and suddenly the stock starts moving and then suddenly everybody wants to go in and it's like plenty of room for new buyers. Applied Digital Corp. This one had a lot of strength after the market dip. It made like 40% in a couple of days and then it faded. Now it's still fading. But one for the scans, if it breaks this level, it's basically all-time high territory, and you never know what happens then. APP broke a base, however, received some resistance. If it starts gapping above the base, and that's a base from February, maybe it gets interesting. Same with APPS. This one is actually looking quite good. All right, notice the difference between the two setups. This one, APPS, from its low, 80%, ARB, 120%. But what is the key difference here? APPS is much more tight when it starts consolidating. So it has a first leg, then it starts consolidating in a tight range. Then it has a second leg, Let's see whether it would now have a nice tight consolidation or would keep moving or would fade. Not many other options. Same here, the first leg, and then it faded a bit. Whereas this name here, it's although it experienced a much bigger move, 120%, it's nowhere near as neat and tight, and then it's quite volatile if you are to trade this name. Huge first leg, and then almost giving out the gains. Another huge leg, and now it looks okay. These nice two tight days. You could also see the spikes on the hourly time frame. That this one tends to gap up and down 5 to 6%. So if you are to choose a setup, I'll definitely go for this one. It's a lower ADR, it's a higher market cap, so that also weighs in the argument, but it's something that you would have a more controlled risk reward, and then possibly a better chance for entry as well. That's what I have on my watch list. It gapped with the Nvidia news, with all the chip names. Our RGTI, QBTS, and then all these other quantum related names, keeping a range so far. So if you break these levels, I'll be looking to enter. Have it in the watch lists. This one looks good. 2 tight days next to a recent possible high. So I want to know if it breaks these levels. If this were any other sector, I would probably put a line here and enter on break. But not too happy with metal sector. This one may very well be basing, although it did show weakness when the market was recovering, and no strength so far. But nevertheless, this one has proven over time that it can run and can start new moves. So interested in going above yesterday's high. Yeah, this one I hesitated to enter. It was on the market weakness days. Obviously, full of regrets, but it's just a textbook setup, right? First leg basing, second leg basing, and then it gets more tight. And then out of nowhere, you get a 43%. What's also so interesting in these cases is that the ADR for such stocks tends to pick up. So you might be looking at a stock which has an ADR of 3 or 4 at the time it starts doing the move. So here the ADR starts at 4, goes all the way to 6, and then at the time that the stock is ready to move, you have an ADR of 8. So it has doubled its ADR. Therefore, at this point, you could obviously expect for it to run a lot more, right? Definitely a setup for the archive and one to investigate down the line. BODP, another name that I got in. It was basically this trend that drew me in, and then I entered these days here. So huge first day, and then you have tightness, decreasing the range, low volume. So it was just an insane setup. Pretty much like FSale. I guess we'll go over it in a bit. This one broke range. I didn't enter, but it's definitely on my watch list if it wants to go to new levels. It was looking fine on the weekly as well. So let's see. BTDR, I think I've lost so much money on this one. I'm not going to even look at it again. It drew me here. Then it shook me out. I think it drew me somewhere on these levels when the market gapped. I think I bought it somewhere here. Then it shook me out the next day. Yeah. That's another position I have, but I'm not too happy with this one. Bought it on the weakness days here. Hasn't really progressed much. That's a tricky one to play, right? You have a gap up, then it checks 3% to the downside, and then it builds a range, but hard to stay with this one. Wow, what happened here? Okay, what a move. Obviously, they announced something. If it went into auction and then gapped up, somebody must have said something. This one's looking fine now, but it shook me out. I entered this day here, and I was insanely happy with my entry. Then I stayed because it recovered, and then once it broke this level again, I was out of the trade. I was happy for it to go down a bit more, but I never expected it to recover that quick. I was going to take a second chance if it broke and then stayed a bit above the 8-day, but it never came back. That's one that shot me up. I entered on the day here on the EP, and then I think I was out. Yeah, when the low was there, right? I was out here on the market weakness. From then on, 40%. I got shaken out on so many names. But what's more important, I got shaken out on this one as well. This one I couldn't enter the very first day, so I was watching it closely. I think I entered here on this day with a very kind of brief stop. It was moving very well, and then it showed some relative strength despite the market weakness. And one day just broke to the downside, and then I never re-entered. Well, I'm typically a fan of these kind of setups near a range. Two very tight days. Okay, looks fine. Oh wow. Not really seeing a setup here, to be completely honest. Like some of the moves obviously come unexpected and without the underlying structure. So looking at a chart like this, honestly, if you spend time analyzing it, it might be worth it. But in the end, this is, at least from my experience, right? The type of charts that I have seen, the analysis, the historical analysis that I have done, and I could say I've done quite a lot of it. Nowhere would you find a setup like this, which would more often than not resolve to the upside. So you have a slight downtrend. It's completely random. You have a first leg. So if it went up from this place here, I would agree that it makes kind of, and it resembles previous setups as well. But this is just every time it goes to the downside, strikes a new low, and then out of sudden, yeah, it breaks a range, all right. But then range in the middle of nowhere. But anyway, good move if you managed to get it. Solar Names did something absolutely insane. So ENPH dropped the lower highs here, and then the most obvious tail out there, and this one I was able to get in a position. This one, the most obvious tail was at the time that the market was essentially breaking down to the downside. It's very clearly seen on the, if we do a relative chart to chart, market was already breaking below a yesterday low um, between the 10 and 21 day, and EMPH couldn't care less. Stayed within the range, never broke the 10 day. Insane amount of relative strength. Insane. If this one was a higher ADR stock, maybe it's worth noting these levels. Other than that, not really. F-sell, another one I was able to get a position in, and again, relative strength, right? The name recovered when the market was below, so that was a pretty decent one. Another solar name experiencing moves to the upside. It's completely random. The EP here makes sense. It's not that cool that next day you kind of open 16% to the downside. You could see that I had here, I actually had an alert for this one. I was hoping that it would come back. But that exact day, the name was too strong. I was hoping that it would come below these levels here. Never came back. Only the next day, but then there was too much to do that day. That's a name that shook me out. I entered on the EP here, and then it just shook me out the next day. And I spent some time thinking where would a possible entry make sense. It's definitely on the third day here after it breaks this down range, because there you could have a well-defined stop loss. But honestly, it kind of shook 3 times, right? So I didn't want to go there. Oh, well. It's a name I have from the EP point here. Has been relatively good so far to me. Let's see if it can move to the upside. That's a name that shook me out as well. I kept my position here because it managed to recover from the 20-day, and then it shook me out the next day. I was so pissed with this name. Yeah, I had few alerts on this name, but it never really behaved the way I would like it to behave. This one looks okay. I'd like to get some traction on it first, and then I'll be looking to enter. Okay. Well, that shook me out as well. Entered here, shook me out a few days later. I never re-entered. It really hasn't done much ever since. This one shook me out, and I'm very pissed with it. Should have kept my position, but then throughout the day it shook out a lot. So it broke my yesterday low rule. It broke then this level. It broke this level, and I was like, okay, not gonna stay in this stock until it demolishes my portfolio. Then it recovered by the end of the day, and then did something insane from these levels. But it's definitely one that I'll put in my trading journal to investigate a bit later and draw some lessons out of it. So it looks pretty decent. Needs to pick up on the volume, but then it might run. And XDR, pretty much anything above 2.1 levels, I'll be looking to enter. It needs to pick up on the volume, but it has a well-rounded structure ready to expand. Another one that shook me out, Oust. Same as NVTS, right? Broke some key levels and then it made an insane run. That's what trading is all about. You don't get these losses to shaken your confidence or make you change your trading strategy. It's part of the game. It's only because of these shakeouts that you're able to then get some stocks which normally you missed entries on. So that's perfectly fine. It's how it should be. Right, this one had an EP. I'm gonna move on alert somewhere here. If it comes to these levels, maybe worth a shot. This one I closed for I don't know what reason. I was not happy with the short history of the stock. Market was weak at the time, so I was not happy keeping it. But the name has behaved quite well. Yeah. QBTS after the Nvidia news. Let's see whether it has some more room to run. Maybe it started after something new. I hesitated to enter, and then they escaped very quickly after the open. And I never made it back. Yeah, these quantum related names have the same charts pretty much. This one shook me out as well. Shook me out here. I'm very happy to see where it is now. And it's not even... I had an alert here to re-enter, right? But once I saw that it broke to a new level, I wasn't entirely happy to re-enter. Looking back now, obviously not the right decision, but that's what trading is all about. Making incorrect decisions and then being able to live with them, such that they don't in any way influence your new decisions. So yeah, that looks like... It actually looks like something promising. Sale. All right. Anything above the high of 16.16 would definitely be worth of an attention. Yeah, that's a position I have from here. Looks good so far. I never trusted this name. Again, obviously not a good decision now, but I was looking at this setup here. Oh well, never trusted the Solars. Actually, it's another good one. Had a trigger for it, never executed. That looks pretty tight. That's one that shook me out, and I'm so pissed with it. I entered on the EP, insane move the very first day, and then it shook me out the next day. I never bothered to re-enter. It was on the market weakness day, and then it just... That's one to keep an eye out. I have my triggers on. That's another solar name, but it needs to pick up on volume. Sam is another one that shook me out on the EP a couple of days later. Velo shook me out as well, and it was one of the best stocks. I don't know why it did this to me, honestly. Oh, well, not to me, but to the market. So I entered on DP. I was insanely happy with this entry. I closed it here. I then re-entered the next day on open, and then it shook me out again. Looking back, probably the re-entry, I should have waited a bit more. But not have it on the open. But again, that's what trading is all about. Being able to live with your decisions. Okay, this one looks pretty good. If it comes down to some of these levels, I may be interested. Other than that, I'm not gonna chase it, sorry. Vivo Power looks interesting. Setting up a tight flag. Anything above 4.7, I'll be interested to play. Can't believe this. That's one that shook me as well. I bought it here on the trigger. I booked some gains, and then it shook me out here. I never re-entered. I don't know why. I just lost track of it. This really made 200%? What the fuck? I remember how it shook me out here. I didn't want to, market was downtrending at the time. I didn't want to keep exposure, which I'm unhappy with. It was here, actually. Jesus. I should better monitor my my stocks that check out. That's I might try it in weakness, but didn't stay with it. All right. Well, that's it. Then I'm just gonna do a very quick scan just to see for above. No, just to see for some big movers on volume for any EPs of a sort. All right, maybe that's one to keep a track of. So anything above here, I may decide to chase. Yeah. Essentially looking for any EPs. Let me add something. What? Valid, true. Okay, fair enough. What the fuck is the issue here? Ah, okay, fair enough. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. I'm looking for relative volume. Any EPs on relative? Okay, APPS. Definitely, I'm gonna re-enter this one. Let's just see where. Anyway, I want to be notified. Cool. one looks good as well. Yeah, the rest are not really hippie looking like. This one might be interesting. All right, then that's it for today. Thank you.